Hello, SGD. This will be part three in this series, the science of symbols, and especially be looking Athanasius Kircher, very famous Jesuit, but also Hermeticist, Esoterician, in his very interesting part of history, just as really the blossoming of science and the Enlightenment, the Renaissance, that whole sort of period around the Renaissance and towards the Enlightenment, and how strongly these symbols and illustrations are connected to essentially what would be referred to as science, but it was at a time when symbolism was more important. So, for instance, now we have, books are cheap. So, but especially back then, you had to be efficient with the way you transmitted information, and also because people were much more literate in symbolism as opposed to plain text and graphs like we have now. Things were done differently, and so this is the one that we've been focusing on. And so already we've looked at so we have the quadrivium, which are the four higher of the seven liberal arts: arithmetic, geometry, which we've done these two, and now we'll have a quick look at music, and as we get to astronomy, and how these four disciplines blend into one another in a very beautiful way, especially around these very lovely numbers that just keep popping up across time, across cultures, across the world. So earlier we had a look, so for instance, the 6/5 diagram, the Pythagorean theorem, and how this applies to so many other aspects, and also the magic square. And these will be recurrent because again, this geometry and arithmetic will come back. And so just as we're going through it quick, you really need to watch the first two episodes because I'll be moving much quicker this time. So just to review, so for instance, the 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the tetractys or the tetragrammaton, and how that's embedded there. Now, there we see that, how the geometry, the arithmetic, which is lovely, but also, for instance, the Pythagorean schools or cults, mystery schools of that time, which emerged, or surely appeared much earlier than that, but this tetractys is a triangle with these dots, just 1, 2, 3, 4, and now our Pythagorean hammer's music theory that we have still with us now, again, it's credited to Pythagoras, but there's more to it. So he was walking past a blacksmith shop, and they were, a team of men were working the hammers, and he noticed there was a certain ratio between these hammers that made them very harmonic. And it turned out that, one hammer was 6 pounds, one was 8, one was 9, and one was 12, which gives us these lovely music ratios which join us back to the tetractys of music theory. So, for instance, the perfect fifth, 2/3, the perfect fourth, 3/4. This is, again, and going back again, even medieval period, musica. So Pythagorean hammers and music theory, which also will connect to the harmonic numbers. But so again, we saw just a review of the tetractys and how both Kircher and it appears so many other places, and Pythagorean hammers. Now, how does the Pythagorean theorem, this 3, 4, 5 triangles, connect to that? Well, in a very, very interesting set of ways. So Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared is c squared. The first Pythagorean triplet is the 3, 4, 5 triangle. And from a triangle, we now move to pyramids, or as I showed in an earlier part, so the Great Pyramids, so the Pyramid of Khafre is at a 2:3 ratio, but also it gives us this 3, 4, 5 triangle, and this is built into the vesica piscis. Beautiful stuff. It's just, it's extraordinarily simple but lovely. And we can also find that one example, for instance, is in the Great Pyramid, or the Khufu's, or Cheops as it's called as well. And we see the 3, 4, 5 in there. And that's not just one thing by accident. That whole chamber is full of info. I've done some recent videos and older ones. It's just, including some of my own findings, just full of bloody information. And extraordinary metrology, ratios, everything. And also, it's known that the Egyptian rope stretchers had the 3, 4, 5 triangle, which, again, it's mentioned that before, that they won't give them credit that they understood it. That's something else. Now, how else do these connect? And so, especially through what's called Masonic knowledge. Now, I've just changed put the I of in there. But so back to the vesica. It's just two circles, equal size. The center of the second circle on the edge of the first, and that gives us a 2:3 ratio. 2 radius high, 3 radius wide, and that of course defines the pyramid of Khafre. But it also is the ratio which connects the Great Pyramid with the Red Pyramid. The Red Pyramid base is 420, the Great Pyramid height is 280, a 3:2 ratio. 3:2, the perfect fifth is it's also called the Hermetic constant. You'll find it in many modern buildings as well. For instance, Frank Albo's work in regards to Manitoba and Ain Dara, which was recently this ancient site which was bombed. You'll also we'll see the 4:3 ratio can be found in many sites in ancient France at Karnak. So is it the Crisuno circles? It really can be found everywhere across the ancient world as well. And again, it's just we won't give them credit for this knowledge. Or on the other side, lost knowledge was never lost, as we shall see. It's just being carried through the mystery schools, through the whatever you want the different embodiments of it, but it's being carried through. So the pyramids are very musical. This 2:3 ratio just keeps reflecting, especially through Pythagorean hammers. Where did Pythagoras and these Greek scholars learn this? Well, we know that they had contact with India, and we know they went down to Egypt. So they didn't just pop up out of the earth. It's part of a much older tradition. Now, the Parthenon is another extraordinary ancient site full of knowledge and just extraordinary. And again, we won't credit this to that because that upsets, some. Otherwise, we go to one extreme, aliens, literally, and down to the other. No, they just sort of clumsily did it by accident. But let's look at the ratio within the Parthenon. The length to width, height to width is 9:4, that's 3 squared plus 4 squared, or to 4 squared, which is like a 3:4 television, and even the 16:9, which is all these even your monitor is continuing this ancient tradition, and we see that the Parthenon, these musical proportions, 9:4, which is 3 squared to 2 squared. 3:2, 3:2. Also, we'll find 4:3. You'll find that the measurements, the number, just continue throughout the temple. This is not the only reference in the Parthenon, and it's not the only reference in the ancient Egyptian temple, especially the very curious pyramids, which is just one of these enigmas that stay with us. Now, also showed this the 357, the magic square of 15, and I have a focus on this one because I received an interesting comment in regards to this, something I hadn't picked up myself, where we have the 5 orders of Roman orders of architecture. We have the Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, but the Romans added 2 more, the Tuscan and the Composite. So there are 3 Greek, but 5 in total added by the Romans. Now, it was Space Creator Band. Notice Masonic art encoding music at minute 432, which is a nice coincidence. The 5 orders of architecture. Check the pillars in the drawing. 3 light ones and 2 dark ones. Equals the perfect fifth, is 3:2 ratio, which is, again, I did an ancient legacy. I did a series on that. Just how many other places across the world it just pops up. It's essential in temple building, still in modern times as well. But also the minor third, the 6/5. So again, this 3:2, and Ionic and Doric, or Ionian and Dorian, are also musical modes, which Kircher did, and I'll come back to those in future episodes, because these guys know what they're doing, and they just wrote it in a different way. And if it's not written with a official ISBN number, and if it's not passed through the official channels, it's just not considered acceptable. And let's say, anyway. So the 3, 4, 5, well, that will also connect to this music theorem, because the vesica is a 3:2 ratio, and the 3, 4, 5, when we cut it down. But that also gives us a 3:4 ratio in that rectangle. So 2:3 and 3:4. which it keeps going and going. Now this 5 to 6 and the hexagon and the pentagram connecting to the golden ratio, perfect geometric expression of it. This is perfect number in nature. There's nothing like it. Now this will lead us also to the tetragrammaton, the name of God. And so, well, where did this Vulcan sign come from? It's also linked to Shin, the it stands for fire. It's also called the lion's paw or the eagle's paw, and it is important in part of Freemasonry and especially connected to alchemy, fire being one of these aspects of it. So this is he is not copying this as Hoagland. Pardon me, I forget his name. He does some excellent presentations, but Vulcans didn't, they're not copying Star Trek. Star Trek is copying them. And this has to do, so that's how it's expressed, and also the number of the number of knuckles that you have all connects back to these harmonic numbers, but that's what's also referred to as the name of God. Now, Shin or fire is the 21st letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The 21st letter of the Greek alphabet is the symbol we use for fire, and 21 is the 6th triangular number, and we also see it in the Fibonacci spiral, which is this way of drawing phi, or coming very close to it. It's not like the pentagram where you have perfect phi, but without going into depth, phi doesn't have to be perfect. It's a wave, and the further you get, well, okay, it's something else. But well, so the 72 parts and 216 letters. There was a few comments in recent videos as well. These are just the bee's knees of lovely numbers. Now, which brings us back to the magic square that they were using, and 15, and okay, that was, but just a quick reminder. Well, 15 is the 5th triangular number, and then we have 21, so, which is a nice reference there as well. And, well, back to Kircher and 72. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 70, 71, 72. There's 72 names of God, as it's called, which again connects back to the tetragrammaton. And he mentions Space Creator, the minor third, the 6/5 ratio. So this here, now that's written in numbers. If we just draw it as, we just extend that and just do it as a geometry, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5 and the 6. So we get the 6/5 ratio, which is also a lovely one in music. Now, Rene Descartes, famous for "I think, therefore I am" quote, but he is the one who, at least in written form, gave us the Cartesian coordinates, 3-dimensional coordinates, and in his work, Compendium Musica, Compendium of Music, well, we see all these ratios: 6/5/6, 4/5, and 3/4, and 2/3. So all these lovely numbers as well. And now if you'd extend it down a little bit, keep going with it, you get the 9/8 whole tone ratio as well. So it just keeps going. Now I showed this painting of Pythagoras. It's not, of course, it's not from his time, but these guys, again, they pass on the information. Well, they include the music reference, because the music, geometry, and arithmetic of Pythagoras connects also to astronomy and also to alchemy, and, well, all these. Now, alchemy is a dirty word, but up to a certain point, alchemy was chemistry, and then the Royal Society come along, and then it became known as chemistry. And so to separate alchemy from chemistry, it's just an arbitrary line in the sand. And before the Royal Society, they were alchemists. They were metallurgists, they were making glass, they were making medicines, they were doing all sorts of chemistry. And so, well, the 6/5, now how does that also connect? I mentioned the Pythagorean theorem. Once you got that, you can work out the square root of 2. And in equal temperament music, the square root of 2 is essential in there. So, well, this is just the tip of the iceberg in regards to this, because there's so much more just in this illustration, not to include the other ones. But this is not just some fluffy sort of nonsense, religious, superstitious stuff, if you want to think of it in that way. It's not evil stuff either. profound knowledge just written in a different form. We'll go further and further, and with that, have a good one.